the sun sets, the undead awaken. To slake their hunger, they feed upon the herd of unaware mortals. Right beneath our noses, the kindred clash against their rivals as they vie for control of the city of San Francisco. Are you strong enough to cheat final death and see another night? Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game from Renegade Game Studios.
Good evening, everybody. It's Vampire Wednesday, and I'm here with Matt Hyra again to cover some more of these tricky, interesting, curious, different rules interactions. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, as more cards get added to the game, there will naturally be, more card interactions that we, may or may not have seen in testing. And so, yeah, we like getting questions and we like answering questions. So here we are.
Yes, I don't know if anybody else just heard you pause, but I'm going to pause. There we go. I think I may have had some bandwidth issues. And not just, card interaction issues, but also as new people join the game,
Mhm.
there will be more things that come up that are just maybe unclear at first glance, like last week when I famously couldn't tell the difference between my turn and someone else's turn and how that affects things. So we are happy to answer things that are, clear to someone who's familiar with the game, but that may trip up people who are newer. So as we are
Yeah.
going through stuff tonight, where if you're listening in here, please type in the chat if you have a question that you've been wondering, because we will give you an answer. But
Let's talk about good news first. How about that?
yes,
Yeah.
before we get to that stuff, The Wolf and the Rat is officially out as of yesterday. So everybody who has been looking, waiting, wondering, you can get out there and start playing with The Wolf and the Rat, start practicing, because it is going to be legal for all organized play events come January 7th. So that's been updated in the tournament rules. You'll be any events that are going on by that time should absolutely be using it, and it is TO's discretion if you want to use it sooner than that. So if you're at a store, and your customers have all pre-ordered and gotten their copies from you, and you want to play with it, 100% okay. This is just, if there was a bigger tournament or something that people have been planning for, which we don't have going on quite yet, this would be where that legality matters. But if you're a TO, feel free, go crazy, use the Wolf and the Rat, get people playing with the
Yep.
Gangrel and Nosferatu.
I'm sure people who have bought it at Gen Con, or some of the lucky people who've already got it in the mail, have already started playing, which is totally fine. You could do whatever you want at your house or your local game store. It's just for events that we care about giving equal access.
The other thing regarding legality that is in that little update to the tournament rules, and the only other thing that changed, is we added a note about the legality of the different promo cards. Just right now, with all the shipping woes that we're having, it is a little harder to get a lot of those promos than we wanted. That goes for the 3 different ones that are in the OP kits, as well as Smoke, as well as Victor Temple. So due to that, all of those promos are TO's discretion currently. If you have them, if they're available in your area and you want to use them, absolutely go ahead and do so. But we don't want somebody who has access to all this larger card pool to have a great advantage over people who don't. So if that's a situation you're worried about, or a situation you've run into in your community, TO's discretion to allow those promos or not. We will firm that up as we get these promos into a little bit wider circulation, but wanted to give something in the tournament rules for people to point to avoid any conflicts. And
Sounds good.
Speaking of availability of things, all you Canadians, all you Australians, all you other people all around the world who wanted things like OP kits, or who had missed out on getting the Wolf and the Rat with those pre-order promos, we have a solution in place. I alluded to it last week, but if you head over to vampirecardgame.com/shop, we've got the core set, Blood and Alchemy, the Wolf and the Rat with the pre-order bonus, all 3 OP kits, and one of the exclusive Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition products too, the big Book of Nod Ultra Deluxe Crate Edition, that are purchasable there. So this is a pre-order program that can be accessed by anybody pretty much anywhere around the world, and is your chance to get those OP kits if you've been waiting We're still working on a more permanent solution for you Canadians and Australians and things like that, but this allows us to get them into your hands with no more waiting. So I'm excited. I know I've seen a lot of orders come through from like Japan, all over the place, just people who have been waiting to get their hands on that stuff, and you can now do so. So that was my week in summary. Matt, let's talk about some of these rules questions. And for everybody, keep in mind, if you have a question, please put it into the chat and we will address it. Or if you have a comment or a edge case that you are wondering about. So Matt, blood can get all over the place now. You can put it on mortals, you can put it on other players. It's a rule that I think it makes a lot of sense, but is not the first thing that people think about. You have to spend the blood of your own color when you're asked to spend blood before someone else's, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. That was, at least I think it was in the core rules, but it was certainly reiterated.
Definitely in Blood and Alchemy.
And in Blood and Alchemy, it was much more important and much easier for blood to get mixed around. And the reason for that is it's not super easy to get your blood onto other people. And we didn't want folks to just willy-nilly deny the Tremere their fun of being able to, use their magics to use up your blood, which your blood meaning their blood that they bequeathed upon you, of course. So yes, you have to spend your own first, and then if you don't have any of your own color, then you can spend whatever you got left.
And it is the acting player's choice. If say there are two different players' blood on my character, I spent all my own. It is my choice which I spend. Your choice.
First. Yeah. You do control that blood. It's just owned by somebody else. So you decide which of the blood. If you've used up your own and you got two different colors from two different players, you choose which one you want to use.
There you go. And I mean, I think this goes without saying, but any mending you do will always put back blood of your own color, even if you've spent blood of another color in that same action, correct?
That's right. Yeah, you have to have blood in the general supply to be able to do it. And so you can't, probably more important to say, you can't regain blood through mending and torpor and whatnot that you used to have of other people's colors, even if you wanted it. So if you've run out, which I don't think we've seen anyone run out at Gen Con or heard about it happening since. But yeah, you can only mend with your own color. You can't regain lost color of someone else's color that you may have had previously. Yep.
That's what I figured. Another one that I've seen people ask about, and this is covered in the core rulebook, but it is a thing that could very, very possibly happen in a live game. So it's worth pointing out. Matt, playing an illegal reaction, say you launch a physical attack against me, I place a reaction card down, we go to resolve and I flip that reaction card and it's only for mental or social attacks. What happens there?
Yeah, so core rules do mention it. It's in on page 8. I know it's something that there are things that can be overlooked, and that's easy. It's actually in the warning on page 8 there that talks about playing cards that you don't have the blood potency to play. It's a bigger issue if someone plays an incorrect attack, because that could have coaxed out information about the, does my opponent have a reaction against this card type, right? So making an attack with an illegal card, you're going to undo all blocks and reactions, including any cost paid, and then return to step 6 of the attack sequence, which gives the defending player a chance to decide if they want to block again, and if they want to play that reaction or a different one. So you're going to lose your attack card, but the attack is going to, or whatever the card was, maybe just I think the most common is like, you say, I'm going to make a social attack, and then you accidentally play a mental card, right? That mental card is discarded, the social attack continues. The defender has a chance to undo blocks, put that reaction back in their hand, recover any costs, and then decide if they want to block and or play another reaction. Now, if you play an illegal reaction, either wrong type, you don't have enough BP to play it, or if you accidentally grab the wrong card out of your hand, the card is discarded without effect, the attack continues. So it's pretty strict on that. You want to double check, feel free to ask your opponent again, like, you said physical attack, okay, now let me check that, so there you go.
And it's worth, if you find yourself in a situation where you think it might be advantageous to bluff and play a reaction like that, then I mean you are by the rules able to. It's not going to do anything, and you're going to lose that card. But if you weigh that the effect of that bluff is worth it, it is allowed by the rules. Osmus Koide asking if in a tournament can someone misplay a card on purpose? If they're doing that a lot, like is that going to be a warning or anything?
It is disruptive. It is not going to be a warning the first time it happens, and may or may not be the second time it happens. Certainly if it happened a second time in the same game, that would be a little more suspect, but we know that people can just accidentally play the wrong card. That's fine. You're losing a card. You get absolutely no benefit out of it. So it's probably not going to be a warning for the very first time, but if it happens more often, especially during the same game, then we're gonna crack down on that. It's definitely going to be a warning, and if you keep doing it, that's going to be a points loss and potential disqualification if you just insist on continuing it. I know there was
put it a couple ways. Like one, it's if you're doing it for attack cards and you're having to go back through and rewind the game, like that's a game state concern and is a much bigger deal. If that sort of thing becomes an issue, we will absolutely address it more strictly in the tournament rules. The reaction thing is much less of an issue because it doesn't actually break anything. It doesn't require any rewinding or fixing of the game state. It is just card goes away, attack continues.
I mean, losing a card by playing a bad reaction or a non-reaction is not going to help you in any sense. Playing a fake, playing an incorrect attack card is the more disruptive one. You're right. So yeah, that one would be looked at a little more closely. I know there was some wondering if like someone could play a reaction against a probable sucker punch. Like you think, oh my gosh, I guarantee this guy's sucker punching me, so I'm going to play a reaction, and then maybe he'll switch targets away from the one that I didn't want him to get. Well, no, that doesn't quite work, because step 8 of the attack sequence, the attacking player reveals their attack card, then the defending player reveals their reaction. After they're revealed, then you make any choices required. So they're going to see that your reaction is a phony.
They'll see your cunning plan and not be affected by it.
Yes.
So yeah, and they'll probably
call a judge, and we'll say, just watch out for that. We're not giving you a warning, but yeah, if we do find some exploit where faking out an attack card, like playing an attack card, is somehow for some reason beneficial for some deck, then we'll change the tournament rules. But right now we're pretty confident there is no pure benefit to that.
Indeed. But yeah, happy to, if people have concerns about a particular combo or a particular situation, absolutely bring it up on Discord with Hyra and myself. Happy to hear it out and discuss it. Speaking of blocking, Dragon's Roost. Katie, can we throw, you can't hear us, so let's have Katie throw Dragon's Roost up. Dragon's Roost is a card, it's a haven that allows people to block with their leader, and multiple people could try and block the same attack. Now, this is not the first in, first out stack like Relentless, correct?
Yeah, this card is not Relentless, and that's a good thing, because when we don't want to have relentless battles for blocking privileges. So Dragon's Roost simply works just in the normal turn sequence of attacker makes the attack, the defending player has first chance to block. If they don't, you go back to priority from the attacking player, and then go clockwise from there. And the first person with Dragon's Roost to respond saying, hey, I think I want to block this, they block, and it doesn't go on the chain. So that makes it, the attack is now blocked, and no one else can, you can't block an attack that's already being blocked. So Street Preacher cannot get in there to interrupt that.
Okay, easy enough.
Yeah.
A thing that I think has caught plenty of people off guard is titles. Titles are by and large all unique. The exception being just Primogen, which is 1 per player, correct?
Yeah, 1 per player. So each player can have a Primogen in their coterie, correct?
And Matt, what are the circumstances? Say I'm running a title deck and my opponent gets a title that I would like to have, to score some points or something. What is the requirement in order for me to be able to play that?
If you are desperate to play a title that someone else holds, I mean, you can imagine the political situation, right? In San Francisco, it's like, oh man, that guy's Keeper of Elysium, I want to be Keeper of Elysium. How can I become the keeper? Well, as you can imagine, vampires tend to solve their problems through a little bit of violence. So if you can knock that character who has the keeper into torpor, you can then play that title, and the title is discarded from the vampire in torpor. Okay, so that is how you do it. They were in fact, you can call them a pretender at that point. So yeah.
And titles are the only thing, we talked about attachments last week. Titles are the only thing that stick around when a vampire goes into torpor, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Retainers and other things are burned.
Leader token stays, there's certain things stay, but yeah.
Attachment wise, I guess.
Attachment, yeah, that is the only attachment that sticks there, yeah. So notice that the titles in torpor follows the same rules as vampires in torpor, right? If somebody's got their smoke in torpor, you can play your own smoke and their smoke is burned. So that is anything that is unique does not like to be in torpor. So titles are mostly unique and all vampires are unique. So if you can knock a unique thing into torpor, you do have a chance to really come over the top and make that person very sad.
Out of curiosity, and I don't know the answer, and I don't know if you'll tell me, but are more titles in the works at any point?
Yes, more titles are in the works. Yes, indeed.
Because when I think about like just a pure title deck, it's sort of self-limiting because you have to have the bodies to put them on, and then you also have, since they're unique, they also have to not be played by someone else. So cool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I saw in one of the forums some strategy. People were saying like, "Hey, I should put a title on the Street Preacher, someone who's easy to get into torpor, and then once they're in torpor, I can play another like Herald on a different character, right? Because it's a very cheap title.
And get the points
yes,
twice.
you can even replace your own titles if you wish, because that would be a very good thing to do with like a base of power agenda. Easy agenda,
and then that also will free up Street Preacher to have a third title or second title played on them.
Not that you're going to find too many titles that the Street Preacher can have, but
there was a discussion of the combos required to get him to a sufficient blood value to have
right. Yes,
some of the other ones.
You could get a +1 citizen, a citizen that grants +1 BP on him, and then go ahead and do it. But yeah, indeed.
All right, Katie, let's see Heightened Senses. So Heightened Senses. Can multiple players play Heightened Senses? We have a lot of these questions around multiple players, something from Relentless or the Dragon's Roost, but can you have multiple players try and play it from the same attack, including the attacker, or the defender, even if they played another reaction?
Maybe. Yeah, so the way it goes is you can only play, if you're the defending player, you can only play one reaction.
Right. That answers one part of it.
Yeah, so you can't play a normal reaction, flip it, and then go, oh, by the way, I'm going to also do this. No, you can't. Other players can also each play one reaction. Now, that was a weird question we got. Oh, can the attacker do it too? Well, yes, they could. If they really wanted to protect the player they were attacking, they totally could. I suppose I could see it if you like suddenly realized that you were going to end the game by doing this and you really didn't want that, or you wanted to trigger your drain them slowly and you realized the guy was going to die. You're expecting them to play a reaction and they didn't. You're like, oh, I don't want you to die off or something. I just want to do some damage to you. Maybe they're not your rival and you just want to ding them. Yeah, so even the attacker can do it. So
yeah,
essentially,
that's probably the most likely scenario is drain them slowly, and yeah, you want to not kill them.
Yeah, so in a 4-player game, there could be 4 heightened senses played against 1 attack. That could happen. It's more likely that the defender will play a regular reaction and the other 2 non-attacking players will play a heightened senses, but if the attacker really wants to do it, they can.
So it is, all those things are possible. Excuse me. All those things are possible other than the defender playing a second reaction.
Correct.
But
yeah,
many of them are just not likely. At least currently.
Not too likely, yeah.
Again, chat, if you have a situation in which you think, any other situations in which you might see a attacker heightened senses their own attack, I would love to hear it.
I would love to hear it.
Back to Relentless.
Mm-hmm.
How does Relentless work during schemes? We talked about Relentless last week. We talked about
schemes.
schemes. We didn't get to Relentless schemes.
Right. Yeah. Actually, when we talked about Relentless, we were only talking about Relentless, and we may have left some people a little ponderous of, oh wait, I guess that means I can't use Relentless when it's my time to do things during a scheme or during combat. And we were giving you only the information about Relentless, not the complete rules of how to use Relentless during schemes or attacks. So during schemes and attacks, you are given actual priority. During a scheme, you have a chance to exhaust vampires in your coterie that have Relentless, that have some kind of maybe
Response.
some kind of influence ability. Maybe you want some influence off of Blood Makes Noise, things like that. So you can play the Relentless to respond to the playing of the scheme, which is totally fine, or you can wait until it is your chance to exert influence. And at that point, you can use whatever abilities you need to. You could have you might even do something like Blood Makes Noise to get 1 prestige, and then pay 1 prestige to do something else crazy, that might give you more influence than Blood Makes Noise could have. So we don't limit your usage of those Relentless abilities. But so again, when we mentioned it last week, we said when someone plays a scheme, you can respond with a Relentless. That is totally true, but you can also use the Relentless when it is your priority during the exerting influence step of a scheme. Similarly, during an attack, you are going to have priority to do things during step 9. The attacker can activate abilities, then the defending player may do so as well. Those are going to need to be, for the defending player, they're going to need to be Relentless or damage prevention, of course. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as we said last week, Relentless does use that first in, last out.
Last in, first out. Yeah. Yeah.
So
they layer on top
first
of
in,
each
last
other.
out, last in, first out.
Yeah. Think of it as layers of sediment. The most recent one is on top. So, and then they resolve top down.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some discussion this week about blood tokens on mortals. It's an ongoing card, right? That lets you play blood on mortals. Mortals for the Nosferatu.
Can you let Katie know to show us Protect the Flock would be?
Yes, Protect the Flock. That is it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was I don't ever recall it coming up in playtesting because there were not a lot of ways to get rid of ongoing, but the question came up of what happens to the blood on the mortals if a Protect the Flock goes away. Now, we realized that it's probably a bad idea to have Flock the Protectors is the comment. Yeah, we realized that we didn't want to have lingering effects that didn't tell you what they do. And we also wanted to make sure that we weren't stating that blood on a mortal only and always is just for one purpose and one purpose only. So we're actually going to errata this card, which will show up in the rules update. We also made a bit of a misplay, so to speak, of putting some pretty important information in the FAQ. We did not believe that we had enough space on the card, but it kind of looks like that didn't turn out to be true. So the new wording we wanted to do.
You're saying the FAQ, like in the rule book,
in the rule book, correct? In the Wolf and Rat rule book, because that the FAQ in the Wolf and Rat rulebook said you ignore blood of your color on the mortals. Well, that's pretty important information. And so we thought, you know what, we really just need to get this onto the card itself. So the new wording, and this is going to maybe show up in the rules update next week, because we want to give people a chance to look at it, make sure there's no flaws with it. But it'd be ongoing exhaust, put one blood of your color from the general supply on target mortal. Each blood added to a mortal increases the damage needed for foes to defeat them while this card is in play. Okay, so that means
so this is not a functional. So importantly, this doesn't change the function of the card. It's not eroding it for power level or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's just a clarification.
It's getting the fact that it's only the foes your foes are the only ones who have to worry about the extra blood. Okay. It also does tell you that while this card is in play. Okay. So what that means is if the card isn't in play, the blood is still on those mortals. It just doesn't have any reference. Okay. Now, if you control multiple Protect the Flock, then as long as you control one of them, as long as you don't lose them all, they'll still function because the blood is not tied to the source. It's your blood. It does what it does because that is part of the effect. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure that I talked about that when we were talking about this on the forum. So if anyone can find any particular issue with that, having two Protect the Flock, both adding tokens, and then one of them goes away, does the one still create the effect for the other? Currently, yes, it does. But if you lose all your Protect the Flocks, then the blood is on the mortals until they're defeated. That extra blood doesn't do anything. Keep in mind that, if you put too much blood on the mortals, you might not have enough to mend your characters or recruit another one. So
yeah, this touches back on that. You can only mend with the blood that you have in your supply.
Right.
Really, blood on a mortal does not have any innate effect. The only effect is granted by that ongoing card. When that ongoing card leaves, blood's still there, just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that if I had to Protect the Flock out, put some blood out, Protect the Flock was discarded by something, I played a second Protect the Flock, existing blood would continue to function, would then again now function as +1 health effectively.
I'm not exactly there could possibly be a way to put each blood added to a mortal increases the damage needed for foes to defeat them. That second sentence actually could be on its own above the exhaust. So it could be ongoing, each blood added, and then exhaust, put one blood. That might actually make better sense. So we will, I'll post that. I'll show that to the playtesters and see what they think, because that may be a better way to write it. That's why we aren't putting into the rules document quite yet, because we wanted to get it right before we do that. So.
And then when we get the card retemplated and stuff, we'll update the PDF where you can actually download a version of this card you could sleeve, or just keep on reference to make sure that you have the accurate and revised wording. But again, this isn't changing the intent of or anything of how the card
Yep.
actually works. Just makes it a lot easier for people to reference.
Yeah.
All right. Then let's talk about reactions like Cornered Rat and Bad Reflection. So do you add your stats to Cornered Rat and Bad Reflection damage? And what does prior to prevention kind of really mean in a functional sense?
Sure.
They both say there that prior to damage prevention.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Prior to damage prevention means that you're looking at the amount that they're dealing, not the amount that you're taking, I guess is the layman's way of saying it. That may not be completely rules technical, their wording, but that is what that means, is how much damage are they dealing to me prior to me, reducing it by reactions, vagrants, and even my own attributes.
And even a heightened senses thrown in by another player.
Yeah, including, because that's part of damage prevention. So we're saying prior to damage prevention. So yeah, correct.
So bad reflection, that would be your reaction, but if it's being used, they're playing it, you're using it to protect Li Shu, for example, who has a retainer that's giving her +1 social, then she would be reducing that damage by 3 for a social attack, but you are going to deal back the damage before that reduction of 3, so it makes the card stronger essentially. In both of these cases, it makes that return attack more powerful.
Yep. It makes it a dangerous. It makes it basically another attack. However, because bad reflection does not have the skull under the blood potency, you do not add your attribute to it. Now, Cornered Rat does have the skull there. And this actually, so you do add the physical, because you are dealing physical damage, you can play it as a reaction to both physical and mental, but you're dealing reaction damage, the reaction damage that you deal back is only physical. So because it has the damage icon, you do add your vampire's physical attribute to the reaction damage.
And by the damage icon that matters here is the one in the corner, not the damage icon left. That's like actually in the text box.
Yeah. That's a good,
and that's right. In the core rulebook, right?
That may have been where the confusion came, is if it, when we say inherent damage of a card, we mean in the upper left-hand corner, how much damage is listed on a skull. If there's no skull, it doesn't even have inherent damage of 0. It has inherent damage of 0, no effect. But if it has inherent damage of 0, that is still a number, and you do get to add your physical attribute to that.
Okay, so this is a nice example in that one of these, yes, you do add your stat to.
Yeah.
One of them you don't, and it is because of that symbol there. Okay, that makes sense to me. And yeah, it is in the core rulebook, right? How you add your damage to reactions if they have the skull. Yeah. But again, it's one of those things that isn't immediately evident when you're just playing.
Yeah, and there's some decent, there's a specific card clarification on Cornered Rat and Bad Reflection in the Wolf and Rat rulebook, by the way. So I realize some people may not have that rulebook yet. They've only been seeing cards online and had the questions. So those are in there. You'll have access to the full rules on those soon.
And it is Wolf and the Rat, I am 95% sure, is on the Rivals website. So if you ever go to new to Rivals when you're on the Vampire card game, you will see all the rule books right down there. Core Set, Blood and Alchemy, and Wolf and the Rat. PDFs available for your education.
Nice.
And below that, you can get all the pre-con deck lists from all those expansions, as well as the ones we did on the stream. At this point, 6 months ago. So a nice way to get started off, either rebuilding the starter decks, or if you want to just see some deck building inspiration. Little resource there for you. Well, chat, unless you have more rules questions, that is all that Hyra and I were able to pull together that people are wondering. So if you do have questions, pipe up with some information here. People who are, I saw somebody asking in Discord about the deck builder. I think I'm in a good place to be able to have that in people's hands next week. So not long now. Thank you everyone for being patient. Everything
Not bad.
Shipping is terrible, and everything dealing with the internet also causes me heartburn and headaches, but we're getting there.
Fair enough.
So yeah, people who are asking on Discord, not too terribly long. If you guys are just general Vampire the Masquerade fans, if you play the role-playing game as well, don't miss that today we dropped Old Sang Wine, which is the New Year's Eve adventure for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. It's a free little PDF module. You can download that, play it with your coterie. It takes place on New Year's Eve in New York City. Just a one session kind of get together thing. It's a really fun little thing, and it's free. So if you're into the role-playing game, definitely check it out. You can find that on our website.
I did have one other question came up. It was actually on BGG today. And it was regarding the agenda, drain them slowly. If people recall that one, let me just read that one real quick. Where is it?
Yeah, we talked about that in regards to drive-by last week.
True. Yeah, this one was, does the agenda drain them slowly trigger when a foe exhausts to attack me and damage me while I'm attempting to claim the prince of the city? And the answer there is yes. The attack you are making with against a claimant says definitely in the rules, as if it, make this attack as if it were your own turn, right? So you get to use some of your attack abilities and whatnot. And drain them slowly is just when a character you attack takes 1+ non-aggravated damage but is not defeated, gain 1. So the best part about drain them slowly is if you are like the first or second player to attack the claimant and you just ping them for some damage but don't defeat them, and then like the fourth player defeats them, doesn't matter. Your attack already resolved and did not defeat them, so you get that.
And interestingly, like that could mess with someone's math about like how many points you're able to score, because that's an extra attack opportunity that does not take you in action.
Yep.
So someone could actually give away the game by going for Prince, and you now get an extra attack. Your turn comes, attack 2 more times, score the last 2 points you need. Bob's your uncle. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
There you go. Coyote, I just put in the chat the link to the blog where you can download. If you just go on any of our web stores and you search for Old Sang Wine, which is spelled kind of like Old Lang Syne, you'll find it there. But it's easy, it's free, and it's on all 3 web stores. So pretty cool thing there just for general Vampire fans. We should be back more than likely one more time next week, and then we'll be on hiatus until January. So Vampire Wednesday fans, we'll show some reruns, I think, while we are on holiday break.
Does that mean we're going to be back on January 5th?
January 5th should be when we are back in the office and back in front of the cameras. And as we get towards then, we're going to have some really awesome organized play news, which I've been working on very hard. So stay tuned. I think people are going to be very excited because I know, only a small percentage of you were at Gen Con and got a chance to get the Prince of the City prizes. And I suspect some of you would like to have a crack at it yourself. And that's going to be possible. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was illuminating in some way, and have an excellent, excellent night. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.